Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Monjaro Talk. This week, I didn't gain weight, I didn't lose weight, so that's kind of a bummer. The good news is I dragged myself clothes shopping. And this is the first time in a long time because, again, I boxed up all my clothes when I was smaller, when I lost weight about, 13 years ago, and put them in boxes per size. And this whole time, I've been taking out a box, trying clothes on, replacing larger clothes, and now I got to the last box. Shirts are different, right? If your shirt's too big, it's probably okay unless it gets really too big. But pants are a problem. And so I ended up getting a couple pairs of pants, mostly because I work from home. It's going to be real horrible if I have to go to a conference or go back into the office across the country and have to get suits again. It's going to be an expensive one. But everything else is gone. I mean, I am down to my very lowest levels of clothes that I had, smallest, I mean. So the funny thing is that I'm a Kohl's shopper. I like Kohl's. They have always been good to me when it comes to exercise clothes for plus size people. Plus size clothes, I was always able to find whether I needed dress clothes, because I needed a lot of suits for my previous job, and exercise clothes. And I tell you, I would go places and they would not sell exercise clothes for plus size people. And Kohl's always had stuff for me. And so I appreciated that. So I had one of those coupons. If you don't know Kohl's, there's like a whole thing on Kohl's math. There is a sale, and then there's a coupon, and then you get back a certain amount of money. I had some coworkers from India come to the United States and they wanted to buy some clothes for their families back home. So I took them to Kohl's and they said, "What is this math going on?" So I walked around with everyone and showed them how the Kohl's math worked. And it was just kind of hilarious because they're like, "Why would anyone shop like this?" And I'm like, "Yeah, the reason you shop like this is because I walked out with 8 shirts and 2 pairs of pants for $89. That's why you shop at Kohl's." Especially now when maybe these clothes aren't going to fit me in another 4 months. Maybe by the end of the summer, I'm not even going to be wearing any of these clothes anymore. I hauled clothes out in November. They don't fit anymore. I bought a couple pairs of pants in November. They don't fit me anymore. So why spend a lot of money on clothes right at this moment? I mean, it's exciting, right? So let me tell you about the Kohl's trip since I don't have much to talk about the weight loss. But I am still losing weight every week in inches. And I just couldn't wear my pants anymore. The pants I bought in November are now falling down, and I stepped on the bottom of one of my pairs of pants because as they start to droop, they droop down at the bottom of the legs. I almost like pulled the pants right off of me because I stepped on it. So I said, "Okay, too much. We got to get new pants." I walked around the plus size area for almost a half hour. That's where I know. That's where I know all the clothes are. That's what I know, what I like, what areas of that area I like. And I tried a few things on. 1X, no. 0X, no. Oh, so then I walked over to the other part of the store where my friend shops. So I always shop on my own, she shops on her own, and then we sort of show each other what we got at the end and then check out. I walked over to her side of the store and I started shopping plus sizes. And I ended up with 2 sets of shirts, some that are medium and some that are large. Honestly, if I was a different kind of woman, the medium probably would be fine, but I felt they were a little too tight. So I got couple larges and I got a couple mediums. So I have some room to shrink into those. Got the pairs of pants. I walked over to the jeans section. This is kind of funny because when you're plus size, I was 4X, or maybe you're 3X, or maybe you're 2X. And then, like I said, there's 1X, which is also, I think, the same size as 18 women's. The pants I bought before were 18 non-women, so just regular sized 18. I go over to the other side of Kohl's, and there's this whole wall of jeans, and they're 30 by 32, 32 by 27. And I'm sitting there going, I don't know what these numbers mean. Do you know that it has been so long ago, and I'm thinking maybe even 7th or 8th grade, that I have bought pants that had numbers like that, and I didn't remember what they stood for. I didn't remember what they stood for. I walked around and I just looked at them and I said, I just don't have any idea. Now I'm really short, so I knew 27-inch inseam was the second number. I knew that was what I needed, but I didn't know what the first one. Is that waist? Is that hips? Is that some other number? Okay, so whatever. So then I walked to the other part. I found some other jeans that were actually 16, 18, regular sizes. I tried the 16. Again, if I was maybe a different kind of woman, I would fit in those. But I decided to go with the 18s because I also remember jeans shrink a little bit. So now I have brand new clothes and they are outside the plus sizes. I'm going to have to learn the whole other sides of stores that I've never shopped in. Maybe go into new stores that I never shopped in. I used to go to Lane Bryant to get more dress material or dressy material. This is a new world for me. I tried on jackets. There's all the Columbia, like I'm kind of sporty, right? I go out in the woods. I have 3X rain jackets. I have a couple of 3X rain jackets. Those are not going to fit me anymore. So I tried on regular Columbia rain jackets and they fit. They fit in size large. And I'm not going to buy them because they are expensive. And like I said, maybe in another year, none of them are going to fit. So we're going to just hold off on some of the jackets for a little bit. But that's my success for the week is me going clothes shopping and just being boggled by it. I don't know why it was so hard for me to even realize I don't have to wear plus size clothes anymore. And in fact, if you do, none of them fit. So this was I don't know, it was really kind of, like I said, I'm not a very emotional person, but this was kind of emotional for me that I went into the side of the store that my friend always shops in that I never really look at anything because I know none of those things fit me. None of those things ever fit me. And now they do. So anyway, that was my good week. I'm pretty excited about that. But what we're going to talk about is what I want, or at least what I'm hoping to do with my diet after I get done with Monjaro, if I get done. I have to tell you, there's probably a good, I don't know, half dozen people I watch who are taking this drug or a similar kind of drug on YouTube to see what they're up to. And a lot of them were going to do the idea, I am going to get off this drug. I'm going to titrate off this drug, reduce my dose, and then leave it. Every single one of them has decided to continue on low dose. We'll see when we get there. I'm not planning on making plans, like I said in the previous videos. I think there's going to be a pill. I think Eli Lilly next year is going to make a pill. Hopefully it works properly. So far the pills have not worked properly, or they either didn't work or one of them caused liver damage. So, we got to see how it goes with clinical trials. I work in the clinical trials software industry, and so I know at least a little bit about reading trials and how it works. Willing to give that a bet. I am betting that there will be a pill. It will be low dose. And I think it's going to be a game changer because right now you have to go up, at least with the prescribed medication, 2.5, 5.0, 7.5. Pills are nuanced. And so you will be able to have maybe a 1 milligram pill or a 3 milligram pill, or you take 3 1 milligram pills. I don't know how it's going to look like. I think it's going to be better. So that's my hope when it gets done. But I still am thinking quite a bit. And I told you before, I am looking at recipe books on healthy cooking. How can I eat healthier? Looking at all sorts of interesting recipes. Now, right now, 10 milligrams has done a number on me. I feel it is much stronger, strangely enough, than 2.5, 5, 7.5. They're all like small incremental changes. And I know that this is another incremental changes. 10 is hitting me like a brick, I have to tell you. Not so much in the side effects things, but I am not hungry at all. Not at all. And I got to this point where I have to tell myself to eat. And the only things I seem to feel like eating is a protein for breakfast, and then a protein and let's say a high fiber tortilla for lunch. And then I have some sort of a very small meal for dinner. Not hungry. I don't feel like eating. But I am trying to plan because I know that at some point I am going to be off this shot and that I want to be able to eat healthy. Now, let me just say that from this point of view that this drug, not only is it habit breaking, like I used to have this huge Diet Coke addiction where I was sort of in the 4 to 5 cans of Diet Coke a day, maybe a little bit more on weekends because I'd get the bottles when I was out adventuring. Broke the addiction, right? So I am trying to figure out how can I not go back into that addiction. Same thing with food. I had foods that I ate all the time, and this is what it did to me. I gained weight, and I know that has something to do with the metabolic syndrome, but I'm taking, let's say, a year and a half, 2 years off from this main diet. I'm eating very minimally. I'm eating protein, fiber, and water, as I say all the time. Can I keep this going? And so what do I want the diet to look like? So before I go and look at recipes, I am looking at recipes, I'm trying to think about what system I'm going to use. Now, right now, I am using the system of tracking my food, tracking my water, tracking all the micronutrients that I'm eating to make sure that I get enough and that I stay healthy and I continue to build muscle and I continue to keep bone mass and everything else like that. What's it going to look like when I'm done? And so what I've been looking at is what people call mindful eating. I have done other podcasts on my other playlist here about stoicism. I am big into stoicism. I really enjoy it. And so I thought, is there a way that I could meld stoicism with eating a little bit? And it's not exact, but there's two different kinds of plans that I was looking at, and they're very similar to each other. The first one is called mindful eating. And mindful eating just means instead of doing what I always did, where I would sit in front of the television or I'd sit in front of my computer and I would eat dinner and I wouldn't pay attention to what I eat, instead, I make sure that I have a time where I can focus on my eating. How much am I eating? What am I eating? And how quickly, because I'm a very fast eater, how fast am I eating? Takes time to go into the stomach. And with Monjaro, because the stomach does not empty quickly, I eat much more slowly. And so that is something that's probably also helping my diet. So trying to make sure that I actually focus on what I'm eating. I mean, I can't even tell you how many times I would get like a burger at a local joint or come home with a steak meal from Outback Steaks or get an ice cream cone and then sit in front of something and eat it. And then I would never even remember the fact I just ate it. What's the point of splurging on these terrible for you foods if you're not going to pay attention to it? I started doing it, but I wasn't very successful at it. But now I think that I have this 2-year break of my previous eating. Maybe I will be successful with it, but this is what I'm going to try. So instead of tracking my food and looking at it and saying, no, Jill, you had enough calories, or you got to get a little bit more protein in, can we get to the place where we're just mindful about what we're eating? And instead of having cravings and instead of being compulsions about food, instead observe how you are and observe where you lose control. I lost control when I was driving home from work and it was late. And that was when I lost control. And so instead of giving into them, instead you be focused on it entirely. There was an old quote from Marcus Aurelius that says, if you're distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but it's due to the estimate of it. It's not even so much, I think, that we want these things, we want these foods. We estimate how awful we'll feel if we don't have that ice cream cone, or how awful we'll feel if we eat something healthy instead of having the big juicy hamburger with all the gooey stuff on it, instead of just reacting to how we would react. There is something that I have done when it came to my finances, which was just wait. It's just as simple as wait. You have a craving to buy something? Why don't you just wait a week? See if you want it in a week. If you still want it a week, okay, fine. We'll people in my head. We'll entertain that and we'll see what we do. But just don't do this on impulse. Okay. That's the idea. And so that's the same thing with food. Fine, you want a hamburger, you really crave a hamburger? Then let's just wait a little bit. See if you can hold off on it. Maybe do it tomorrow. Tomorrow's Friday. Is tomorrow Friday? No. Tomorrow's Thursday, but why don't you wait till Friday and see if that works? The idea is that with mindful eating, is you're just eating whatever is necessary. Another quote from Epictetus, who's one of my favorite Stoics, take only what is necessary and only at the right time. So can I bring everything back to mindful eating where I focus on that? The second one that I'm a little bit more interested in, although it's a bit related, and I tried this before, was intuitive eating. And intuitive eating is trying to understand what's going on in your body. listening to your body. Eat only what you need. Either suppress your need for food or don't overeat. Use food as something that sustains life, but not to overcome stress, not to overcome, a bad day at work, which is probably what I did, or I'm having fun. This is a good time. And I can't even tell you how many times I went out with my friends and we would eat some meal out and I couldn't move. I was just like, oh, I just ate too much. How did that happen? How did it happen that I went out, enjoyed this meal to the point where I feel sick afterwards? That's what I'm trying to avoid. So it's not that I'm going to go ahead and condemn enjoying food. I just want to be able to control it. I want to be in charge of it. I want to be the commander of the food that goes into me. Seneca once said, "It's not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more. That is poor." It's not so much even about money. I'm not talking about money right now, but you can have a certain income and be rich because you use your money wisely. Or you can make a lot of money and be poor because you use it unwisely. Same thing with food. And that's what I'm really going for. So I'm just trying to manage. I'm trying to be in control of. I'm trying to say, with intuitive eating, I know where I'm at right now. This is a craving. This is a fun thing. This is escape. What is it I'm looking for? And then try to take power over it. I want to take control over my eating. And we can't control necessarily our appetites. And part of what being overweight does is it overemphasizes your appetite. We talked about in the past about how when you have too much insulin in your body, the receptors in your body won't bring them into your muscle. And so your muscle's like, hey, I'm starving. Could you go eat something out there? And so you feel like you're craving food all the time. If we break that habit, if we break this metabolic syndrome that's going on, can I go back into this when this is done? Stop binging. Well, I didn't really binge. I was never that person who ate a cake, but I ate too much. And instead go for a level of meal that I can eat. And so the first step I'm going to do is I'm going to be grateful for the food I have. I'm going to eat it with awareness, a little bit like I said with the mindful eating, but I'm going to be aware too of my stomach filling up. Right now, I'm very aware of it. Monjaro makes you very aware when you have gone too far because your stomach hurts. And so I'm going to do that. I'm going to focus on eating when I'm eating. And then I'm going to evaluate, did I do a good job? Did I eat because of stress or did I eat the right amount of food? Did I eat what was appropriate for this particular meal? And so I'm not going to think about dieting. I'm not going to record my food. This is my hope, by the way. I'll tell you about my fallback plan here in just a minute. I'm going to eat when I am hungry, and I'm not going to wait until I'm starving. I'm going to give up this battle I have with food and instead, like I said, try to learn some recipes that I like, but are also very good for me too. Can I find that middle ground? And I am going to feel my fullness before I keep eating. I'm going to eat much slower so I let that fullness happen to me. And I'm going to find things that actually satisfy me as compared to things that fill me up. Can you eat? And this is what I'm learning in this Monjaro experience. I have Rolos. Do you know that every once in a while I have just a single Rolo and I enjoy the heck out of it? I have learned that I can really enjoy the tiniest thing without overindulging and eating like a whole brownie or something like that. And then the other part of it too is I'm going to start making sure that if I start feeling sad or bored or stressed out, we're going to find other ways to deal with that, but not eating. I mean, like I said, this is my pipe dream, right? I'm in the process now of learning to enjoy movement, feeling my body exercise, know that I'm burning calories, I'm making myself healthier. I am starting to see muscles in my arms. I'm starting to see bits of my neck. But you know what? My shoulder and my arms, pretty muscular. And in fact, my legs are too. And that is starting to leak out of my fat losing. I am starting to see it. I'm going to enjoy this feeling of being strong, of being healthy, of knowing I'm doing the right thing for myself. Sure, would it be nice if I had this brownie with the ice cream on it? Absolutely. What also feels great? living a long and healthy life. And I'm working on replacing those kinds of messages to myself. So I think if you are looking at doing something like this, and these are the steps I'm taking too, is I'm learning to listen to my hunger voice. And I'm listening to my anxiety voice or my stress voice or my boredom voice, and I'm recognizing it and I'm calling it out. That's step number one. I'm identifying what I'm feeling right now. So that's the first step I'm taking right now, is that I'm trying to just sort of divorce myself from this diet idea and instead calling out what I'm feeling right now and identifying it. Am I hungry or am I stressed? Step number two is that I'm now learning, because Monjaro makes you learn it, how to feel full earlier. We eat too fast and then we don't feel full. But this drug, like I said, will punish you, or it punishes me if I eat too much. Sometimes I eat perfectly healthy foods when I go out with my friends. Like I said, my friend and I go to this farmhouse that has a restaurant associated with it. It's a dairy. And I just get something like a tomato soup and a salad, but sometimes it's too much food. And then even though it's a healthy meal, I still don't feel well after it. So I'm learning less. The other part is figuring out, maybe giving yourself a scale. There are a couple of apps. I have been trying them out, and I'm asking myself, how hungry am I on a scale? Now, back when I was in the office, I had an abacus, which an abacus is just a rail with like 3 rows of 10 beads on it, and you slide them over. And what I started doing with it is as I got hungrier, I would slide a bead over. I'm a little hungry. And I wasn't eating until I hit bead number 6. If I hit bead number 10, too far. Bead number 6, I would start to eat until I would slide, and as I ate, I would slide the beads back over. That was my first attempt at having a hunger scale. So the idea is 10 is I'm starving, and 0 is I'm entirely full. That was my scale. And I did that, like I said, with sliding beads. There's a number of apps out there. One of them is called Eating Buddy. And so the idea is when you're going to eat a meal, you label how hungry you are, then you type in what you ate. It's a little bit more than what I want to do. I really just want an app that tracks how hungry I am without tracking food at all. But that's the idea, is I'm going to start tracking how hungry I am throughout the day and then eat during circumstances to a point where I hit a level where I am full enough. So I'm always going to try to keep myself, I think, between that 30%, which is full enough, or 60% pretty hungry, and then never try to get outside of that range. Again, I'm going to try to eat slowly, which means I'm going to use my phone or my watch to set a 15-minute timer to finish a meal. Sometimes what people will do is they will chew 20 to 30 times a bit. That's the recommended. I don't know. That might make me, I don't know. That might not be great for me, but I'm trying everything right now. And then try to notice what you notice about the food. How does it taste? Someone said once about like when you eat an ice cream cone or you get something like a burger, you only really taste the first 3 bites. And then you're used to it, and now you're just sort of mindlessly eating. So I'm going to try to slow down and notice it a little bit more. So that's the next step. The fourth thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get out of the labeling food, labeling what I ate, good, bad. We're getting rid of the guilt. We're just going to start with I'm feeding my body. The goal is that everything that's going to be in my house, so I'm going to step this up to before, everything I grocery shop for is going to be high in fiber, high in protein, and low on useless carbs. If it's good carbs for you, I'm fine with eating it. But I'm going to try to make sure nothing comes into my house that is bad for me. That has worked good for me in the past. That's where I always joked that Shopping Jill comes from. Shopping Jill reads every label, and she won't buy any food at all. If you want to eat that bag of Doritos, you go right ahead, but you're not going to grocery shop for it. You're going to have to drive out and go get it. And I'm far too lazy to ever do that. So I'm really looking for that. There's some number of good books out there about anti-diet or intuitive eating that you can listen to. I have not read any of these books yet, but maybe when I do, I will suggest them. And like I said, in the end, I don't know if this is going to work. It did not. I mean, it worked okay. I don't want to say it didn't work, but I didn't lose weight on this particular plan before. But I maintained weight on this plan before. I was able to eat when I was hungry, and it wasn't great for weight loss, but could it be good for maintenance? And that's what I'm going to try. My fallback right now, as it stands, is doing what I'm doing today. Tracking food, making sure I eat the proper amount of calories, making sure I don't eat anything that's particularly bad for me, and tracking everything I do. I hope not to do that for the rest of my life. I don't enjoy tracking. It's just not one of my things. I find it helpful. I find it edges me along. It keeps me accountable. It does good things for me. I just hate it. So this is what I'm hoping for. If you have other plans about what you're going to do when you're eventually at the proper weight and hoping not to put back the weight that you already lost, let me know. I'd love to hear about it. You can either email me at jill@startwithsmallsteps.com, put a comment in the chat right here about what your plans are for eating, or maybe you've had a type of diet that worked great for you. I am still going to stick to the protein, the fiber, and the water drinking even after I leave Monjaro. So that's the idea. I hope this helps. And like I said, let me know what you're doing or what you're planning, or do you have a plan for what you're going to do when you get off Monjaro? I'm a firm believer that if you don't have a plan, then that is when you put yourself in, I think, in danger of doing anything. So I hope that helps. Thanks a lot. I appreciate you listening.